Hey guys, my name is Dennis, and I want to introduce you guys to the first episode of our podcast, The Search for Truth. My name is Dennis, and I'm joined by Biju. So, Biju, I'll let you start. What is behind the name, The Search for Truth?
Yeah, so my decision to participate in a podcast named The Search for Truth is actually deeply personal. We live in a unique age of unfiltered ending information. There are a lot of facts, lots of opinions and falsehoods floating around, and they often blend together and clash with each other. But unfortunately, the result of this is that many people are struggling to just make sense of what is really true. So my goal in this podcast series is to just cut through the noise and help our audience build a foundation of faith that is informed, reasonable, and evidence-based. I don't want anyone to believe blindly. In fact, my view is question everything. I'm here to provide a careful, logical, and honest assessment of the historical, archaeological, and scientific evidence that surrounds the Christian faith. And because I'm convinced that when anyone applies sound reasoning with an open mind to all the available facts that are out there, the truth of Christianity becomes clear. So for anyone who is sincerely seeking the truth, the conclusion of all the information provided will be that Christianity is logical, verifiable, and life-changing.
Yeah, that's powerful. And similar story for me. Growing up, I did not believe in the Bible. It sounded like a bunch of fables. I mean, you read about talking donkeys, whales swallowing up people, a lot of miracles. And so for me, I looked at the Bible and I thought, this is a big fairy tale. And so for me, it was a search of asking God, who are you? Show me the truth. And I make this statement, it's going to sound controversial. If the Bible and Jesus are not true, I don't want to believe it. Why should I believe in something that's not true? And so I want to know what truth is. And I only want to believe in what is truth. If there's another truth that can be verifiable and proven with any undisputed facts, that's going to be truth for me. In my years of searching, in my decades of practicing Christianity, I've stumbled across intellectual defenses of the Christian faith, which I hope that we can present in a compact, bite-sized format. So that's my heart behind the podcast. I'm excited to get started. We're going to start on a topic that is personal to a lot of people, especially Christians. Our source of truth, our book is called the Bible. And a very applicable question is this: why should I base my life around this book? Why should I base my worldview, the way I live, around this one book? And so we're going to talk about, what are some common objections, Biju, that you hear every day?
Many in the public sphere. So some of them are like the Bible was written by men. It's not divine, or the Bible is biased. It's been copied over and over again and changed over centuries. There's so many translations. Which one can you trust? There are contradictions in the Bible. It's another one. Another one which is like, it's just ancient mythology. Or like science now disproves the Bible. And then one common one I hear among a lot of secular Christians especially is like, why were some books excluded? Was that intentional?
Yeah. And those are excellent reasons that people propose, right? And these are objections we hear every day. Now, how should we respond when you hear these objections? What would you say to that?
So, number one, and this is something that I always like, is anchor back in the definition. So when we say that we can trust the Bible, what do I mean? When I say I can trust the Bible, what I'm saying is what we read today reflects the original text and is historically credible. That's what I'm saying. So that's what we mean when we say we can trust the Bible. So let me start off with a couple of interesting facts. Scholars now consider the Bible as a historical text, with the caveat that there are naturalistic scholars that will put aside supernatural claims like the virgin birth. So they may not agree with those supernatural acts, but they agree that the writers are authentic, that we have a good trail from the original copy to the current version, and whoever wrote it believed whatever they wrote. And another fact is historians, archaeologists, and textual critiques routinely treat biblical writings as primary sources.
Yeah, that's fascinating. And so many scholars, right, whether they're Christians, mostly non-Christians, they treat the Bible as a source of truth, as a reliable document in history. Now, when we examine the Bible, what are the areas of reliability that we should examine?
There are three broad categories. Number one is the manuscript evidence, which provides a textual reliability. Number two is the archaeological evidence, and there's plenty of that, which gives a historical reliability. And number three is internal evidence within the Bible itself, which provides a prophetic and unity reliability. And we will go through each of them. They are very deep topics with a lot of content, but we will try to condense it and give a bite-sized version of it.
Yeah, there are encyclopedias literally written on each one of those topics. But if we just pick one of those when we talk about the manuscript evidence, what do the amount of manuscripts and perhaps the age of manuscripts actually tell us?
This is one of the mounting evidence about the Bible. So in terms of the amount of manuscripts that are out there are more than 25,000 manuscripts. About 6,000 or so are Greek, about 10,000 or so are Latin, and there's another 10,000 or so in various languages like Syriac and Coptic. It's just amazing. 25,000 plus manuscripts. Interestingly, if you were to zoom into the New Testament, the time gap between the writing and the earliest copies of the New Testament is less than 100 years. As an example, Pyrrhus 52, that is right now available in the John Rylands Library in Manchester, they have a fragment of John chapter 18, verses 31 to 33 and 37 to 38, which is written in Greek. And that manuscript is dated to 125 AD. And remember, the book was written around 99 AD. So that's how short a period of time that manuscript is dated back to.
So that's fascinating when you look at the amount of transcripts and the age, but how does that provide a benchmark for everything else?
Excellent question, because everything is a matter of having an anchor to compare to. If you pop up the slide that I shared with you, let's go through it quickly and see how the New Testament compares to some of the historical works that are widely cited and trusted by scholars. There you go. Look at it. So we have the New Testament, which we just spoke about, 25,000 plus manuscripts, and the earliest copy and the original, the time gap between the two is 50 to 100 years. Now go all the way down. Let's just compare Aristotle. The earliest copy versus the original, 1400 years. 1400 years. And only 5 manuscripts. Yet, it's well cited by scholars. You can look at others. You can look at Caesar's Gallic Wars. It's taught everywhere in our history books. 10 manuscripts, and the difference between the earliest copy and the original is 900 years. It just gives you an idea of why I am so passionate about the manuscript evidence that can be found for the Bible. There is no reason to doubt it as a historical text.
Yeah, that's really fascinating. I think a lot of people have never seen that before and realized just how many texts were written past their actual inception. Now, we talked about the age, we talked about the amount of manuscripts in the Bible, but what about the actual accuracy? I mean, people always say, like we mentioned, that there are contradictions in the Bible.
So in terms of the accuracy, there are scholars called textual critics. These folks have analyzed the Bible and say that the 99.5% of the biblical text is certain. The variations that are found are minor, and the vast majority of those are spelling errors or alternate wording for the same thing. And there is absolutely no Christian doctrine that is impacted as a result of any variations that are seen in the Bible. In addition, another really cool thing that is true is that the early church fathers like Irenaeus, Tertullian, Clement, they quote almost the entirety of the New Testament by the 2nd and 3rd centuries, which means if you just take their quotes and forget the Bible, you can recreate the New Testament almost in full, which is pretty amazing. So you can see the different pathways you can take to get to the same endpoint, which is that these texts, the Bible as we have it today, is reliable and accurate as it's originally written.
Yeah, that's really fascinating when you really think about that, how much of it has been preserved so accurately. Now, one thing we hear about in the news all the time is something called the Dead Sea Scrolls, or you see it in hear about it in movies. What exactly are the Dead Sea Scrolls, and what is their relevance to the defense of the reliability of the Bible?
There's a good reason why you hear about it all the time. It was a monumental finding discovered in the 1947, and there were further discoveries made through 1956. Its location is near Qumran, which is in the Judean desert. So right now you would think of it as the West Bank area. And there were 11 caves where they found these scrolls. The majority of the language is in Hebrew, and there is some Aramaic and Greek. When the scrolls were dated, they are dated back to between 250 BC and 70 AD. That's how old these scrolls are, which is why there was so much excitement. What happened is like there was a Bedouin shepherd who found the first scrolls in a jar in Cave 1, and after that, excavation started and tens of thousands of fragments were found, about 900 manuscripts. The 900 manuscripts is a lot, but only 200 of those 900 manuscripts are biblical manuscripts. One of the cool things about the Dead Sea Scrolls is that almost every book in the Old Testament is referenced in those scrolls, except the book of Esther, and it shows how astonishing the accuracy is over more than more than 1,000 years of transmission from when the Bible was originally written.
Yeah, that's so interesting. First of all, thank you for this first episode. It's been amazing to dig deep into the reliability of the Bible and unearth a lot of these facts, and to know that the defense of our faith is not just based on a simple statement to believe, that there's actual credible, scientifically verified evidence that we can fall back on. Encourage you guys to join us for episode 2. We're going to dig more into the reliability of the Bible and talk about some of those other areas like the archaeological evidence and the internal evidence. So hope you guys can like and subscribe, and see you next time. Thanks, Biju.